I just got a new set of micron pens, the perfect tool for drawing fantasy maps. Now, I thought these wonderful, cheap little pens only went up to size 8, but I just got this pack that has a size 10 and a size 12 in it. Look at this awesome fat pen. Now, usually I'm drawing with a size 5, which actually has a 0.45 millimeter tip, but over the last few years, the lines in my drawings have gotten thicker and thicker because I just love drawing with bold lines. I think they make drawings feel more solid and iconic, and you can't get caught up in too many details because big thick lines take up so much space. So I'm excited to try out drawing a smaller map with thicker lines using these big boy microns. This is going to be fun. Okay, I always start off my maps by making a key or just figuring out how I'm going to draw each of the elements of the map. In this case, I'm not really like labeling things out. I'm just sketching around on a sheet of scrap paper using my number 8, number 10, and number 12 size microns, just trying to get a feel for how the pens work and also deciding on how the trees and the towns are going to look at the same time. I think this is a super important step with any map drawing. Figuring out how the map will look beforehand is just a big boost of confidence, and you'll notice that nothing I'm drawing here is super complicated, just little circle trees and triangle mountains. If you take a few minutes to test out some of the pens and figure out how your coastlines and roads are going to look, I promise your map will look better in the end. Okay, now I'm jumping into the actual map. I've cut down a sheet of smooth Bristol board to 5 by 7 inches. So this is just going to be a little map, just a southern section of some fantastical continent. Think of it like the starting area for a new adventure. Anyway, I've lightly penciled out the map so I know where everything's gonna go and I know what things are called. And I'm starting off by drawing the border around the outside of the map with the big fat number 12. Just some simple lines to frame this map. And I gotta say, it's a real joy having this big pen to fill in the solid black border. It goes super quick. Usually it doesn't feel very good with these micron pens to color in big sections, but having this number 12 size just feels so smooth, and I love the way it looks, this nice solid black. Now, before I get into the actual drawing, the illustration, I'm going to go ahead and letter the map. So I'm switching to a number 5 because it's what I'm most used to with these microns. And I want to make sure the type isn't too big and chunky and taking up too much space on this map, especially since it's such a small size. So I'm just writing out these location names, not trying to be too fancy with it. My only real goal is to try to keep the writing similar size. This way none of the locations will seem more important than any of the others. I like that it looks handwritten, but I'm also being slow and taking my time so it doesn't get too messy. Okay, next up, I'm drawing the outline of this continent. Back to the big boy number 12 for this one. So I'm using different sizes for each element. So since I'm using a different size for each of the elements, I want the place where the land meets the water to be the thickest outline. It's kind of like drawing a hard separation from where people can move around freely and where they can't. And because this is the thickest line in the drawing, it makes that separation really super clear. Now, to further enhance that separation, or just to make it look a little more like this is land, this is water, I'm moving down to the number 10 micron and making these horizontal dashes, these hatch marks. And once it's all done, if you kind of squint, it almost looks like there's this kind of gray border around the continent. When I'm drawing in black and white, this sort of hatching technique helps stuff pop even more. It makes the ocean sink down and the land rise up. And the cool thing about these micron pens is that they actually have a little bit of flex and give to them. They aren't super stiff, so you can push down slightly harder to get a thicker line. In this case, I'm giving these hatch marks a slight taper by pushing down harder against the outline of the continent and then pulling away and easing up so it kind of comes to a point. It's subtle, but I think it looks cool. Now for the mountains, I'm still using a number 10. The border reach is supposed to be this dividing range of mountains that keeps the area of the world a little bit separated from the rest, so sticking with a thicker line and some heavy shadows kind of feels appropriate for the story I have going on in my head. These mountains are super simple to draw, just a little triangle shape and some scribbly shadows to one side. I'm not being too careful with the shadows. I think letting the thicker pen kind of do some of the work. It's almost like it's filling in the areas on its own, and it gives the mountains some texture and kind of has a natural look to it. I figured if I'm drawing with these big thick pens, I might as well make big thick cities and towns, just filling them in solid black so they look extra heavy. These icons are super simple, and I think it was a good call. You know, big chunks of black are going to stand out on a map, so making the main specific locations the darkest and boldest part of the map means that your eye is going to go straight to those important locations first. For the rest of the details, I'm going down a size and using the number 8. Until now, this is the thickest micron size I've ever used, so using a number 8 for the detail part of such a small map feels kind of crazy. You know, it's this strange balance of being careful and deliberate while I'm drawing, but also allowing the pen to do its thing and, you know, get chunky with it. I'm not totally sure I love how these trees are coming out. Sometimes with maps I don't mind, but other times it kind of bothers me when a tree is the same size as a mountain on the map. I'm not quite sure why. You know, maybe I should have put these trees closer together so it looks more like a forest, or, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should have spread them out even more and it would look like, you know, here is an icon of a tree that represents a forest, just like here is an icon of a mountain that represents a mountain range. I don't know. What do you think? Now, I love drawing roads on maps. Linking these locations together is strangely satisfying. Something about it gets my imagination going, like maybe I should write up a random encounter table for traveling from place to place by road, you know? Usually when I draw roads, I do a dashed line, but looking at this big old number 12, I knew the roads needed to just be a solid dot from this big thick pen. The label on the pen says number 12 is 0.7 millimeters thick. I guess the numbering convention on these pens doesn't quite work how I originally had thought, but looking at what a 0.7 millimeter pen tip is, I think going up to a 0.12 millimeter pen would be too big. I don't know, maybe a 1.2 millimeter pen would actually be awesome. Okay, this map has been super fun to draw, and I encourage you to grab some of these pens from your local art store, give them a try making a map. I guess if you want to support the channel, I have set up some Amazon links down in the description for the specific packs that I bought, as well as the Bristol board, the type of paper that I like to use with these pens. Check out the links, see what you think. If you'd like to support the channel even more, check out my Patreon, also linked down in the description. Every month I make new tabletop role-playing games, adventures. This month I'm making 3 one-shot adventures for my new ghost-busting game called Goons and Ghosts. It's gonna be really fun and wacky. I hope this video was inspiring and got you wanting to draw your own maps. It's really such a fun and easy way to get into drawing, and I really hope you try it out. If you feel intimidated by it at all, check out the other videos on the channel. I have lots of great map tutorials to get beginners into drawing maps. And if you do draw your own map, please share them with me. I love seeing what you all make. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!